Hello guys, this is Douglisium. Normally this is the time when I'd be practicing my speech and a little bit of voice acting because I'm terrible at speaking, so I'm trying to work on it. But this time I decided, since Arcane's been on the mind, that I'm going to spend these 20 minutes to talk about Arcane. Or at least the first 3 episodes of Season 2, I think it's Act 1, of the episode split in acts, I don't remember, but the first 3 episodes of Season 2. This is actually inspired by a TikToker sounds like the wrong word because she does have a YouTube channel and stuff, by a media analyst called Lucky Lefty, who I got hooked on after my sister recommended me her mouthwash videos. I beg you, if you're upset about how people discuss things like mouthwash and Arcane, give Lucky Lefty a watch on TikTok or on YouTube, because she does a phenomenal job breaking like all this shit down. Oh yeah, also Rich, I'm not really gonna edit this, so sorry for all the ums and uhs. So with that shout out of the way, let's actually look at some of the episodes. So I just complimented Lucky Lefty, and she says something very interesting where she says people are asking if Caitlyn did the right thing or the wrong thing, and the problem is they're looking at it on an individual level, and that's the least interesting question to ask. I would partially disagree. I think it's the least interesting question to ask if you are looking at Caitlyn's actions in a vacuum. But I think the problem, what's actually happening, is that people are trying to separate the society and the structures at play with Caitlyn's individual actions, and that's where it becomes boring, or the least interesting question to ask. So let's look at what I mean. So people ask if what Caitlyn did in the first 3 episodes of season 2 is wrong. It's actually a very simple answer. It is wrong. She's fucking going down there and gassing people, and she says she's cleaning up the streets, but how many people are getting hurt by her throwing in the fucking gray down into their streets? She's willing to throw people in jail willy-nilly. But, well, hold on. We'll back up and get to that. So first of all, we have to go to the attackants first, because that's where I think most people are wondering about is, you know, her mom died, so of course she's angry, etc., etc. So here's the thing. Caitlyn is still in the wrong there, because Vi does rightfully point out that Piltover killed, specifically the enforcers that Caitlyn is a part of that system. Those people killed Vi's parents. And Vi says she doesn't understand. I mean, Caitlyn insists that she does understand, but I really don't think Caitlyn actually understands. I think Caitlyn understands on an individual level of losing a parent, but she doesn't understand on a systemic level. And the difference between Vi and Caitlyn right now, in my opinion, is that Vi has an easier job looking at people's actual individuals, for better or for worse. I think that's what lets her see the best in Caitlyn, is that she can see Caitlyn as an individual, and she can also see each Zona as an individual. But Caitlyn is moving more towards sweeping generalizations about the Zonites. So when I say Caitlyn doesn't understand what's going on a systemic level, basically what I'm pointing out is that Vi is correct. If Vi copied what Caitlyn's modus operandi is right now, she would be fighting the entire police force. She would not be working with Caitlyn. She would have fought Caitlyn on site. She would refuse to help Caitlyn, which I think she would have been justified in doing, since we know she's being basically physically abused in prison, because the police put her there. But Vi ends up being willing to help Caitlyn, partially because obviously there's something in it for her, but she's partially able to see Caitlyn as an individual. So what I mean by that is that Caitlyn understands losing a parent. Zon is a victim of basically a systemic issue of Piltover using them for resources and constantly enacting violence against them. And the thing is interesting, though, is that Caitlyn and Vi actually mirror each other a lot. And I don't mean this in the sense that they're both equally justified. What I mean is that their arcs mirror each other in the sense that they're supposed to, they kind of comment on each other. For example, Caitlyn tells Vi that she thought she was one of the good ones, which is already a pretty red flag. I even made a joke on Twitter. If a white person ever says you're one of the good ones, get the fuck out of there. And there's lots. I have ADHD. Hold on, I'm trying to focus. There's a lot to talk about, and I'm actually going to dive into what I mean about this. So, in my experience, if someone of the majority or someone of a different group, like for example, a white person or a man, says you're not like other ones, oh, you're not like other black people, you're not like other girls, to me it's a big red flag, and it's usually going to fucking fail and go up in flames, which is basically what happened with Caitlyn and Vi's relationship, because you're stuck in a situation where you have to narrowly fit into what they think is a quote unquote good one. And if the second you step out of that box, you're like, damn, you're just like everyone else, which is exactly kind of what happened with Caitlyn and Vi. Caitlyn was like, damn, you're just like every other Zona. You're we don't want to risk shooting a child. Damn. Either that or they're constantly just going to turn to you to sort of justify their actions. So the quote I often say is, "You're always one of the good ones until you aren't." It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much different you are from the other girls or the other black people or what have you. You're always one of the good ones until you aren't. Until you don't serve the purposes. But again, I'm getting off topic. So let's go back to where this all started. This all started with the attack during. So Jinx shot a rocket, killed Caitlyn's mother. They're having a funeral. Mel's giving, a memorial to the people who were killed, including Caitlyn's mother. Mel's giving a speech, and then the Zonites attack. Now, this is where a lot of people seem to start siding with Caitlyn, I think. It's because they're like, damn, I'm trying to memorialize, she's trying to memorialize her mother. It's a peaceful, seemingly peaceful thing. And then Zonites seemingly randomly attacked. But what if I told you, in the context of Arcane, it actually was not random at all? So there's a couple things to consider. So I thought the scene was kind of weird. Not because it was badly paced or anything, but if you notice, there's this woman with like this weird chainsaw thing. She's chasing Jace. Well, not only do they not kill Mel, but this weird woman starts chasing Jace, and she's like blabbering about something. She won't shut the fuck up about family. And you're like, huh, it's kind of weird. I mean, this is a memorial, so maybe they're trying to make a point about losing your family, because I'm sure a lot of Zonites have lost their family to Piltover. But, you know, that's kind of sus that she's specifically going after Jace and the police force. And why would she keep going on about family? And then I fucking remembered, holy shit, Jace fucking murdered a kid in cold blood in fucking season 1 when he was fucking being a vigilante in Zon. And I don't think enough people are talking about that. So, okay, hold on. I'm just getting really excited here because I fucking love art, not because I love children dying. So let's break this down. So, you're a fucking Zonite, right? And then one day, these two people, we know one of them is Vi and one of them is Jace, in the last season, come down, start like fighting. You know, they're Vi's trying to spin this as like, oh, vigilante justice. They're like fighting like she's trying to get back at Soko and the Chem Barons. And so this famous Jace is also famous. So this famous fucking white guy in a fucking like Piltover suit comes down with a fucking Hextech hammer, and Vi with her Hextech gauntlets. And the only people we know that use Hextech is Piltover. Zon uses fucking Chemtech, right? And they come down and fucking muck about, shoot some of your mechs, whatever. But then Jace fucking fires a fucking energy bolt, dead center on some fucking kid, shoots him off a several foot story drop, and that kid probably breaks his spine and fucking dies. So you're a Zonite, you're like, what the fuck was that? There was a guy in a white gold suit or whatever suit he was wearing at the time, wearing a fucking blue energy hammer, and with someone else with blue energy gauntlets, and none of our shit's green and purple. We don't use fucking Hextech. And if that child was somehow, I don't know, related to someone working, like some sort of Chem Baron or some lady with a chainsaw or anybody in her particular group, she might go, damn, they just killed my family. I have to get revenge. And here we can see it start clicking into place. Because if you notice on the attack, a lot of the Chemtech mechs, I'm not really sure what they're officially called, a lot of the Chemtech mechs are actually quite similar to the ones, or if not the same model, to the ones we saw Vi and Jace fighting in that original scene. So, what seems to have happened is Jace killed a child, fucked off, didn't explain what happened, didn't apologize, didn't try to make reparations, didn't own up to the mistake. So he just fucked off, and all the Zonites knows that some rich asshole came down here, fucking shot us, like hunted us like we're fucking animals, and shot a fucking child, and then dipped without saying shit. And they're like, damn, clearly the system isn't gonna. Clearly he's not gonna get arrested. The system isn't gonna give us justice. So we're gonna do this ourselves. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna grab a bunch of guys. We're gonna send a fucking strike team of our best soldiers, the Chemtech soldiers. We're gonna fucking go in there, take out the police, because we know the police are gonna defend him, and we're gonna fucking jump this guy and fucking kill him as revenge. You know, eye for an eye. And when you start phrasing it like that, the scene becomes a lot more. I mean, it becomes kind of funny because in a way, but it becomes a lot more tragic, but also fucked up, because the reason there might be attacking is because of some shit that Jace did that he hasn't told anyone except for Vi. Vi's like the only one who would probably know, and I don't think she's told anyone yet. And so to everyone else, the attack seems random, but it's actually because they saw some Piltover dude come fucking down and shoot a fucking child and then fucking dip without a word. And this also makes it seem extra ironic because later we see Caitlyn's like, all right, that's enough. We got to send in, like, because So Mel's basically trying to like bring the conflict down. Mel's kind of like they're like we need to send an army to send a message, and Mel's like, what if we just send like maybe we cut it down to a strike team, and then Caitlyn takes control of that, and it was like, well, we're gonna send in a strike team with fucking Hex Second 4, like we're gonna go only after Jinx. We're gonna send in a strike team with some crazy ass Hex technology to send a message and drag in Jinx. Now the irony is this is probably exactly what the fucking Zonites were doing. They're probably like, damn, somebody walked in and killed one of our fucking loved ones. All right, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna grab our best fucking chemtech weapons, suit up our guys, and send a concentrated strike team to go fucking fuck up the police and go. But more specifically, we're there to fuck up Jace. Because if you notice, they actually have a kill shot on Mel, but they actually don't take the fucking shot. I mean, part of that's probably because it was a flare gun, but I think it's a very interesting thing because they could have just fucked shit up. They could have just been like, fuck it, kill Mel, kill everyone fucking there. But they actually don't seem completely random. They seem mostly like they're interested in the police and they're interested in Jace. So this also creates an irony because Caitlyn is talking all this shit about how basically we need to take revenge, but okay, I mean, where do I even start with Caitlyn? So I don't think Caitlyn's in the right, but I think there's important commentary being made about a more systemic, overarching issue. Basically, I think a lot of people miss this, is that Caitlyn thinks Vi is one of the quote-unquote good ones, but, and I think in a similar way, Vi also thought Caitlyn was one of the quote-unquote good ones, because I think Vi has a habit of seeing people more on an individual level at this point, so, which is good, but I think in this case it ends up kind of blowing up in her face because she fails to account for the systemic things at play. So, and I think it's also funny because Caitlyn says, I think Caitlyn's even surprised by her hatred. She says something like, she basically, it seems like Caitlyn thought she was better than she actually was, but then she goes like, damn, after seeing the murder, fuck up this memorial and kill my mom, it becomes so easy to hate them. They're animals, which is fucked up to say right in front of Vi, but I think in a way, it seems like even Caitlyn's surprised by this. It's that Piltover takes like this moral grandstanding approach. They're like, damn, we're not like those fucking filthy, underhanded asshole Zonites. We are morally superior. We don't start fights for no reason, which is not true, because first of all, they're constantly sending police down there, but second of all, there's a point being made how easy it is to take the moral high ground when you're just like living it up, right? They're living in their fucking ivory towers. They probably don't see as much of the violence as they actually think they do. So they're sitting in their violent ivory towers, and then they're watching like Zonites fight for their life, and they're basically going, like, why are you guys fighting so much? You guys are so violent. You guys are fucking animals. But the second they even experience even a fraction of what the Zonites go through and having their family systematically killed or arrested or, you know, pollution being dumped into their shit, Caitlyn folds like a fucking paper towel and then gives in to the systemic hatred and immediately stops seeing them as people and starts going on basically like borderline, I might actually just be straight up a genocide. She goes on a genocide, and at first her goal sounds like, I guess, reasonable. It's like, let's just equip some people and go, you know, chase down Jinx the one person we know who did this, Jinx specifically. But it clearly starts becoming more and more questionable because one, she starts gassing people, and she's gassing like entire like tunnels of people. So it's not like she's probably hitting civilians. There's like this one guy who we know was working with one of the Chem Barons, and Jinx ties him up on like the fan, upside down on the fan above the gray, and then they untie him and they get the information out of him, and then Caitlyn's like, okay, arrest him, and Vi's like, wait, we shouldn't arrest this guy. He gave us what he wanted. This guy, I mean, it's obviously that guy was just trying to survive. Like, that guy clearly fucking hated his job. I wouldn't want to go into a fucking weird gas chamber if my boss told me either too, but obviously he had nothing but he was down on his luck. He probably was going to starve to death anyway if he didn't do his job. But Vi basically points out like, whoa, we shouldn't arrest this guy because he cooperated. And Caitlyn basically says, fuck it, send that guy to a prison, which is especially fucked up because Vi, personal first-hand experience, understands how fucked up the prison system is. She was thrown in there for like at least a couple years probably, and was constantly being physically assaulted and violence is being enacted upon her. So Vi knows firsthand like how shitty the prison system is. So Vi is speaking from like not just like Vi speaking from a very personal place, but also a place of empathy. And what does Caitlyn do? She disregards that. And this takes me back to what I said earlier, where what Caitlyn said about her parents. I think Caitlyn, once again, she understands it's happening on maybe on an individual level, but definitely not on a systemic level. And part of the problem that's happening with a lot of the characters in the show is the flaw they all make is they're all acting like they're all making a bunch of individual choices, but in reality, there's a bigger picture that's unfolding. They're like, oh, well, I'm just going for revenge. This is my personal thing for revenge. But then they realize there's a bigger systemic issue, which is influencing their thoughts and actions that they are not always aware or conscious of or ever think. Especially the Piltovans, they especially don't think about it. They think they look at each individual case like, oh, we want justice. Oh, they attack us, so we gotta do this. Because like I said, the attack by the Zonites on the memorial was probably not just didn't come out of nowhere. It was probably because of Jace's earlier running around, which then in that choice to run around and go shoot people, like it's it's a little video game, probably comes from the fact that there is a dehumanization of Zonites. So the dehumanization of Zonites leads to Jace acting like a vigilante, actually getting a kid killed, and then that in turn leads to the Zonites, fighting back, sitting in a strike team, and then but because the Piltovans don't have the bigger picture, they just can't put the pieces together, and they go like, all right, we just gotta put the Zonites into place. That's what they need. Not justice, not maybe asking them what the fuck happened. We just gotta take them out. There's also something to be said about Caitlyn using the Kiraman system. Like she's using a system that is basically supposed to suck the pollutants out of Zon, right? You're supposed to keep the pollutants from like getting so bad that it just kills everyone in Zon. There's something to be said about her using taking advantage of that system that's already in place to leverage power against the Zonites, and spread pollution that presumably Piltover is mostly the ones putting in there. She's using pollution that Piltover put there for the most part, and is using a system that's supposed to protect the Zonites to basically torture them or kill them or whatever. And what I'm trying to get across is that it's clear that you could extrapolate the Greys also as a sort of metaphor for Caitlyn taking advantage of an existing system to her advantage and how that system supports her. Because if you're a Zonite, you can't really pull that same shit in Piltover because Piltover is like up on the surface, right? And wouldn't have the same vent system. So there is systemic inequality present here. And if you really want to push the implications further, Zon is basically at Piltover's mercy because this is a Kiraman system, right? And that's the thing, is keeping all the pollution from getting so bad they all don't just fucking die in basically a terrible gas chamber. So if Caitlyn ever decides to turn that shit off, most of the people are probably fucking dead. So then the conflict between Caitlyn and Vi eventually comes to a head when Caitlyn's about to take the shot on Jinx, and Vi does say, hey, if you have the shot, take it. But then what she didn't account for is this little kid who clearly looks up to Jinx and gives off powder vibes. And this little kid tries to shield Jinx, and Caitlyn's about to take the shot, and Vi's like, actually change my mind, don't take the shot. What if you hit the kid? And Caitlyn says she won't miss, which, okay, thanks, bro. She basically just said, nah, I'd win in response to that. But I kind of want to break this down because I think some people might just take her word for it because she is a good shot. So there's a couple things to consider. First of all, Vi and Caitlyn's Hextech shit was just fucking glitching out. Now, they don't know what was causing it. They don't know it was because, whatever, they don't know it's because of Jason, Echo, and Heimerdinger like fucking around. Well, I mean, it would probably happen anyway, but they don't know that's what caused it. So, from Vi's perspective, their Hextech shit was just fucking glitching out. So, who knows what caused that, and that could fuck up the shot. But also, I think it speaks to the sort of dehumanization of Zon, where that's a risk Caitlyn's willing to take, but also how high of a pedestal, Piltover might Piltovans might put themselves on. Like, oh, no, I'm not going to make a mistake. I'm going to hit the shot. And it's sort of just like, why even take the risk? Not to mention that from Vi's perspective, if you're this little girl and you're trying to protect someone, and you see the person you see Jinx's head gets fucking blasted open, even if she does hit the shot right under you, that's probably gonna be pretty fucking traumatic. And it's probably not gonna be like, damn, they saved my life because they took out this, terrorist. They're gonna be like, I just saw them fucking murder someone in front of me for someone I was trying to protect who didn't, who'd been treating me better than the police ever did. You're probably gonna be pissed about that. And then obviously, Caitlyn hits Vi with the butt of her rifle and then, walks away. I mean, I could tell you that was going to happen. At the moment she said, You're not like the other Zonites. Like, damn, like that shit was that shit was not gonna go well. Um, so then Ambessa does all her stuff, and Caitlyn's basically becoming a dictator because her power is clearly growing. Piltover might become a military state. We'll see what happens in the future episodes. And then the stuff going on with Echo, Heimerdinger, and Jace is also pretty interesting. I don't have much to say off the top of my head, but what I find particularly interesting is when Echo and Jace are talking about the Hextech net. I don't remember if that was the net or the net was above it somewhere. But basically, there's like the Hextech system that's underground, and Jace basically says, "Oh yeah, so we basically built this down below, like underground, because if this blew up, obviously it'd fuck our shit up. So we didn't. So and then Echo rightfully points out, like, so instead of sacrificing your town in case an accident happened, you're gonna sacrifice Zaun." And then Jace tries to defend himself by going like, "Oh well, we made sure it was not near, any population centers or people where people hang out." And then Echo correctly also points out like, "But we have pipes of clean water coming through here and air, and so if this shit fails or gets corrupted or goes off, Zaun is probably fucked." And I think this also speaks to a level of dehumanization the Piltover might be giving Zaun here, because the obvious answer in hindsight would have been, why don't you go fucking ask somebody down in Zaun, like at least map it out, or ask someone like, hey, is there anything important in there? Like we want your opinion. Is there where's a place you don't think anyone hangs out at? Stuff like that. So they clearly didn't ask Zaun at all for their input or even like a suggestion or anything, or any part of Zaun whatsoever. Because imagine if, I'm sure Echo, there's a chance Echo might have been down to help if they were like, hey, we want to make sure this doesn't hurt anyone. But then you also have to consider that this shit is basically built on, at the expense of potentially expensive Zaun, and Zaun isn't seeing any of the profits presumably, because Zaun doesn't have any cool Hextech shit. They don't got any cool fucking blowing crystals. The only one who does is fucking Jinx, and that's like that's because she stole it from earlier. But all the Piltovers are getting all the cool Hextech shit, and Zaun ain't seeing a shit, and we don't. Presumably, Zaun isn't getting any money either. So, like, imagine having imagine someone built like a power plant, and its power plant was potentially pumping out pollution, or if only options explode. They're like, hey, let's build a nuclear power plant right here. If it goes off, it could be catastrophic. Will you be seeing any? Would you maybe seeing any like benefit? No. Will they be getting any cool electricity or Hextech shit? Nah. So it's basically just at the expense of Zaun. And this is getting a little long. So how do I wrap this up? Yeah. So my point is that part of the point I think is being made is that where the systemic issue, the systemic and the individual end and start is kind of vague. And the point is, I think sometimes the characters make the mistake of presuming to know what's individual and what's systemic, and that leads them to making errors in their judgment. For example, Vi fails to account how the systems may affect Caitlyn, for example, and it's like, how do I put this? It's the same problem with when someone makes there's like critiques, I don't know, like men or something, or white people, and there's somebody in the comments going, not all men, or not all white women, or not all white people, or not all white men, or whatever. They're kind of missing the point. I mean, first of all, it doesn't apply to you, just keep scrolling. But second of all, they're missing the point where people are talking about bigger systemic issues, and you can't always separate that perfectly from individual choice. And to pretend like it's only just individuals acting and just like bad apples constantly popping up is a flawed and often unhelpful way of looking at the world and trying to address issues. Because at a certain point, you're just trying to deal with the symptoms, but not the actual disease. You're just constantly putting out fires without questioning where the fires are coming from. Which I think is what, I mean, I'm not saying, I think that's what Piltover's doing. They're just seeing all this stuff happen. And they're like, damn, they're just seeing like a fire happen. They're not really questioning where the fire is coming from. And it's coming from basically them, because they're treating Zaun like shit and putting them in a situation where they either starve or die in some chemical-ridden swamp, or they do what they have to do to survive, which leads to, like a cycle of people taking advantage of each other, etc. And that's really all I have to say. Jinx does say if you need to jinx a person or society, call me, which is supposed to be her feeling down herself, but ends up being, it seems like foreshadowing or irony, because there is a society Zon was once to Jinx, and that would be Piltover. So, and Jinx, it's kind of funny because she clearly has like this whole like spread chaos thing, which I mean, if you want to take down a fucking complex system of law and order and legality that's constantly been oppressing you, might seem kind of tempting to turn to someone like Jinx to take down a society. Um, there's also the scene where Jinx gives Saveka a, is it Savika or Saveka? I actually don't Savika. I haven't actually thought about it. She gives Saveka a new arm. I think it's funny that Jinx has her own little flare on it. Because like if you look at Saveka's normal or original arm, it actually looks like it could do shit besides just punch people. Like obviously it's mostly meant for fighting, but it looks like, you know, it could like lift a box or something. Jinx's armor is just like a fucking a maw. I can't really see it doing much else except for fighting and crushing shit. I also think it's funny that she had the get Jinx thing. She shows her own little flair. But I think what's interesting also is the gambling system, because at first, Saveka seems pretty annoyed by it. Which I mean, who wouldn't be? Because you probably just want control over your arm. But she seems to get kind of more and more into it as the fight goes on a little bit. And someone in a comments on TikTok I saw did rightfully point out that we do see Saveka gambling a couple times, and Jinx is actually probably more aware of her surroundings than the audience may think about, because Vi correctly points out that we gotta send like these when they're going into the strike team, but we gotta send them back because Jinx will take advantage of their little of any mental weakness they have, any like, you know, hesitation. She's really good at like picking at people and noticing like, you know, the weaknesses and mental hangups. So I think this kind of speaks to Jinx actually being really good at, you know, like seeing little details, understanding people, understanding what they like. So you could argue that the Jinx, I mean, Jinx is obviously, you know, has a kind of like when I say anarchy, I don't mean in the political sense, but I mean in like the slang chaotic sense. She has a chaotic vibe, but there's the implication that maybe what she's doing isn't always as random as you might think, and she might understand Saveka in a way that maybe even Saveka doesn't know, because someone points out that kind of looks like Saveka might have been giving a gambler's high as the fight continued going on, because we do know she, if I remember correctly, we do know she gambles. So this also might speak to a certain potential overlap or connection between Saveka and Jinx. You know, Jinx is sort of chaos and, you know, blow up and see what happens, and Saveka is sort of I'm willing to take a gamble, and which we do kind of also see. We do see what I'm talking about later in the scene where so Jinx and Vi are fighting, and then Saveka activates her trap, and Jinx goes like, "Wait, not yet," basically, but Saveka activates it anyway. So this would once again imply that Jinx is not as random as people think. She does have like complex plans in place, but it also might imply that, for example, Saveka might be willing to take a risk if she feels like the outcome will be a bigger benefit than, you know, if they mess up. And it kind of seems like what was supposed to happen is maybe Jinx was intending for her and Vi to get sucked up into the vent and then die, which would be pretty gruesome if that did happen. Because imagine being the police officers that got out, and then you see this colorful explosion, then like blood of the blood of two people rain down on you. But still not 100% sure what the plan was there. It could have been that she just hesitated. Who knows? Yeah, that's all I have to say for today. Welcome to my 30-minute tech talk. Sorry. I also make Magic the Gathering videos. I'm planning to make on the Magnus Archive videos. I'd also write articles on those things. So if you watch this and go like, damn, I really love this guy's takes on Arcane, go watch my Magic the Gathering and Magnus Archive stuff, even though that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about right now. Yeah, who knows? Also, there were several points in this talk where I said the Piltovans aren't any better than the Zonites. The point here isn't to say that the Zonites are just as bad as the Piltovans, or that the Zonites are like, oh, it's bad to be as, you know, where the Zonites are. Like, they're inherently evil animals. The point I'm trying to make is that they're people. They're just people at the end of the day. And the Piltovans are also just people, but the Piltovans have been dehumanizing the Zonites and acting like they're this grand evil to be taken down, or they're just irrational human beings just like flailing around. When in reality, they're people. You know, they have, yeah. Also, I gotta say how it's super ironic that Piltover's like, look how they hurt our kids, we gotta do it for the kids. And there's that one shot of the kid with like a who got wounded by Jinx's entire like fiasco with the paint. But I'm like, what about the kids in fucking Zon? There's that one kid who's killed by Jace, and then we know based on Echo's story that there's been an uptick, like there's constantly orphans flooding in because they're constantly having their parents killed in Zon. So there's been more and more orphans going to Echo's Shreth place. What about the kids in what about those kids? You don't give a fuck about those kids. That's clearly part of that might be also causing some strain in Zon and leading them to lash out even more. There's more I could talk about, like, for example, like with the symbolism of the songs and like what they mean and why they are played when they are played. But yeah, I'm gonna stop for now because this shit is probably like already over 30 minutes, and this was supposed to be like a 15-minute talk. So I'll see you guys later.